He wanted casino gambling in Florida.
I didn't want
Yes, you did.
Totally false.
You wanted it.
One of the reasons Mr. Trump is a frontrunner, Republican voters say, is because they like the fact that he is not bought and paid for by wealthy donors. Mr. Trump has repeatedly said that the $100 million you've raised for your campaign makes you a puppet for your donors. Are you?
No, absolutely not. People are supporting me because I have a proven record of conservative leadership, where I cut taxes $19 billion over 8 years. We shrunk the state government workforce. We created a climate that led the nation in job growth 7 out of 8 years. We were one of 2 states to go to AAA bond rating. People know that we need principle-centered leadership, a disruptor to go to Washington, D.C. The one guy that had some special interest that I know of that tried to get me to change my views on something that was generous and gave me money was Donald Trump. He wanted casino gambling in Florida.
I didn't want
Yes, you did.
Totally false.
You wanted it, and you didn't get it because I was
it.
opposed to casino gambling
I
before,
promise I would've
during,
gotten it.
and after. And that's not, I'm not going to be bought by anybody.
I promise, if I wanted it, I would have gotten it.
No way, man.
Believe me.
Nope.
I know my people.
Not even possible.
I know my people.
Is there anything else you want to say about this?
No, I just will tell you that, Jeb made the statement. I'm not only referring to him. A lot of money was raised by a lot of different people that are standing up here. And the donors, the special interests, the lobbyists have very strong power over these people. I'm spending all of my money. I'm not getting any. I turned down so much. I could have right now from special interests and donors, I could have double and triple what he's got. I've turned it down. I've turned down last week $5 million from somebody. So I will tell you, I understand the game. I've been on the other side all of my life, and they have a lot of control over our politicians. And I don't say that favorably, and I'm not sure if there's another system, but I say this, I am not accepting any money from anybody. Nobody has control of me other than the people of this country. I'm going to do the right thing.
You got, according to to what you said on one of the talk shows, you got Hillary Clinton to go to your wedding.
That's
because
true.
you gave her money.
True.
Maybe it works for Hillary Clinton. It doesn't work
Jeff,
for anybody on this stage.
I was a businessman. I got along with Clinton. I got along with everybody.
Yeah.
That was my job, to get along with people.
But the
I didn't
simple
want
fact is,
excuse me, 1 second.
No.
I
The
didn't
simple
want to.
fact is,
Jeff,
Donald, you
good.
cannot take
more energy tonight. I like
No.
that. Look,
I was asked the question.
I didn't want. It was my obligation as a businessman to my family, to my company, to my employees, to get along with all politicians. I got along with all of them, and I did a damn good job in doing it. Go ahead.
So, he supports Pelosi. He supports Schumer. He supports Clinton.
Got along with everybody.
And when he asked Florida to have casino gambling, we said no.
Wrong.
We said no, and that's the simple fact. The simple
don't
fact
make things
is,
up, Jeff.
Don't cut me off.
Come
sir.
on, don't make.
Bush, Mr. Trump has suggested that your views on immigration are influenced by your Mexican-born wife. He said that, quote, if my wife were from Mexico, I think I would have a soft spot for people from Mexico. Did Mr. Trump go too far in invoking your wife?
He did. He did. You're proud of your family, just as I am.
Correct.
To subject my wife into the middle of a raucous political conversation was completely inappropriate, and I hope you apologize for that, Donald.
Well, I have to tell you, I hear phenomenal things. I hear your wife is a lovely woman.
She is.
I
She's
don't
fantastic.
know her, and this
She
is
is
a total
absolutely the love of my life, and
mischaracterization of what
she's
I
right
said.
here, and why don't
Good.
you apologize
Good.
for her?
No, I won't
right
do that
now.
because I said nothing wrong, but I do hear
So
she's a lovely woman.
So here's the deal. My wife is a Mexican American. She's an American by choice. She loves this country as much as anybody in this room. And she wants a secure border, but she wants to embrace the traditional American values that make us special and make us unique. We're at a crossroads right now. Are we going to take the Reagan approach, the hopeful, optimistic approach, the approach that says that you come to our country legally, you pursue your dreams with a vengeance, you create opportunities for all of us, or the Donald Trump approach? The approach that says that everything is bad, that everything is coming to an end.
Mr. Trump.
I'm
Jeb
on the Reagan
said
side of this.
That they come into our country as an act of love. With all of the problems that we have in so many instances, we have wonderful people coming in. But with all of the problems, this is not an act of love. He's weak on immigration. By the way, in favor of Common Core, which is also a disaster. But weak on immigration, he doesn't get my vote.
Here's the fact. When Donald Trump talks about judgment, what was his position on who would have been the best negotiator to deal with Iran? It wasn't a Republican. It was Hillary Clinton. That's what you believe. I mean, the lack of judgment and the lack of understanding about how the world works is really dangerous in this kind of time that we're saying. So is that the judgment that you bring to the table, that Hillary Clinton is a great negotiator, that she could bring about a better
Your
deal
brother
with Iran?
and your brother's administration gave us Barack Obama because it was such a disaster those last 3 months that Abraham Lincoln couldn't have been elected.
You know what? As it relates to my brother, there's one thing I know for sure. He kept us safe. I don't know if you remember, Donald. You remember the rubble? You remember the firefighter with his arms around it? He sent a clear signal that the United States would be strong and fight Islamic terrorism, and he did keep us safe.
I don't know, you feel safe right now? I don't feel so safe.
Ever ready. It's very high energy, Donald.
Mr. Trump?
Humble.
That's a good one.
Well, I do like to win, Don.
This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. An in-depth interview with Donald Trump at his Manhattan headquarters in Trump Tower. On the day when Russia conducts its first airstrikes on Syria, tough talk from Trump on President Obama.
Putin doesn't respect our president. He probably doesn't respect our country very much because he's gone through so many years of Obama, but he doesn't respect our president. It's a real problem.
Plus Trump on the art of the deal.
I'm a real businessman. Whether people like me or don't like me, I'm a real businessman.
Tonight, my interview with the man who just told a crowd in New Hampshire this.
If I get elected president, we will indeed make America great again. That I can tell you. That I can tell you.
So you come in, the first thing you do, you hand me these polls.
Just got them myself.
And they're good,
very
though.
Nice. Yeah, they're
Can we talk about this Suffolk University poll? It's a brand new
Sure.
poll.
Sure.
You're 23%. You're the front runner. The two people who are second, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, they're in second place. You almost doubled them, triple Jeb Bush. Be honest with me. Did you ever think that you would be to this point? What's your reaction?
Well, I do like to win, Don, in my life. You know, I mean, I haven't lost too often, and I would think that I went into it originally because I thought I was going to do well, but I'm a little ahead of schedule, and I'm under budget. You know, it's like I build. I'm under budget, and I'm ahead of schedule, meaning I haven't spent nearly as much. I would have thought I would have spent about $20 million by this time on advertising, and I've spent nothing because I seem to be getting a lot of press, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're resonating with the people, but we're getting a lot of coverage, so I haven't had to advertise, which is nice.
I want to talk more about the polls and get to the race a little bit later, but
Okay,
you know,
fine.
I've got to get to foreign policy now,
Sure.
especially what is going on
I love
with
it.
Syria and Russia, because the big international news now is Russia, striking Syria for the first time now, giving the U.S. about an hour's notice.
Sure, they don't respect the U.S. They don't respect.
What do you make of this
respect
ratcheting up, though?
Well, number one, they don't respect our president. They really don't respect us anymore, and that's why they're doing this. At the same time, if they want to hit ISIS, that's okay with me. I'm not going to be saying we have to do it all. You know, we're like the policemen of the world. I'm a very strong person when it comes to the military. You and I have had this conversation before. I think it'll be my big sleeper, as a sleeper subject for me. I think one of my strengths will be the military. I'm very, very strong on the military. I believe so strongly in it. We're going to build a tremendous military. Nobody's going to mess with us. But at the same time, we have to be respected, and frankly, we're not being respected. Nevertheless, I love the fact that ISIS is being hit by Russia.
But according to U.S. officials, that the areas that are being hit are not ISIS strongholds.
And
These
I'm
are areas
hearing
that
that.
are propping up Assad, they
Right,
believe.
and I'm hearing that, and I hear they're hitting both, but I'm hearing that. And then you say to yourself, Assad, bad guy, killed hundreds of thousands of people, but you wonder what's going to happen with the other people that we don't even know who they are. We always give weapons. We give billions of dollars in weapons, and then they turn them against us. We have no control. So we don't know the other people that we're supposed to be backing. We don't even know who we're backing. Russia and Iran. And, of course, we have made Iran strong by giving them $150 billion in one of the dumbest deals I've ever seen. So you have Russia and Iran are backing Assad. At the same time, my primary thing is getting rid of ISIS, because ISIS really does stand for evil.
Here's what you said. You said, let's just let the Russians take care of it. But U.S. officials, again, are saying that these airstrikes were not targeting ISIS. They were targeting the opposition to Assad. Do you want to change? Would you change your position on that at all?
Look, I want to invest trillions of dollars in rebuilding our country. I want to create a tremendously strong military, stronger than we've ever had before, and really technologically strong. We need technology. We're the king of technology. But that's what I want to do, and I want to invest money in our country. We've invested so much money in the Middle East that we have nothing for it. You know, Russia, if you think about the old Soviet Union, you know where they went bad? They went into Afghanistan. They were there for years, and they virtually went bankrupt as a nation, and that's when it all split up. If Russia wants to go in, and if Russia wants to fight, in particular ISIS, and they do, and one of the reasons they do is because they don't want ISIS coming into their country, and that's going to be the next step. So that's why they're there.
So you actually believe that they are fighting ISIS in that
I think they will be fighting ISIS. I think they're going to also probably
ISIS?
try and pop up Assad and help him out. And frankly, who are we backing? We don't even know. I was with a major leader the other day. They don't even know who we're backing. And if you look at Libya, what did we do in Libya? It's a mess. Nobody knows what's going on. You take a look at Libya. You take a look at Iraq. We spend $2 trillion, thousands of lives, wounded warriors in Iraq. What do we have? We have nothing. And by the way, Iran is taking over Iraq as sure as you're sitting there.
How would you handle Putin, though? Because you know the icy relationship that Putin and
Well, there's
and our
no
president have.
respect. It's a question of respect. It's like deals. I do deals. That's what I do. I do really good at deals. The other side has to respect you. Putin doesn't respect our president. He probably doesn't respect our country very much because he's gone through so many years of Obama, but he doesn't respect our president. It's a real problem.
You've got Syria, you've got Russia and the U.S., but flying in the same place.
Right.
I mean, one bad move, and that, as you say, huge. That's a huge problem. Don't we need some rules of engagement?
A couple of bad moves, maybe not one, a couple of bad moves. You have World War III over Syria, right? I don't think so, all right? I don't think so. Look, if Russia wants to go in there, it would have been nice if we went in as a unified front, to be honest with you. But if Russia wants to go in there and knock the hell out of ISIS and maybe stabilize them, this migration, this big migration, where now they're talking about bringing 200,000 people into the United States. And I will tell you, if I win, I'm going to say it right now, and I'll say it to you, those 200,000 people, and they have to know this, and the world will hear it, are going back. We're not going to accept 200,000 people that may be ISIS. You know, when you look at the migration, there's so many men, and there's so many men that look strong to me. I'm pretty good at analyzing things. I say, where are all the women? You see so few women, and they look strong, and they're young. Number one, why aren't they fighting for their country? Number two, what's going on? Why are we accepting all of these thousands? Now that I heard a number today, 200,000. That's almost like, are these people ISIS? We have no idea who they are. We have no idea where they come from. And I'm just telling you right now, they may come in through the weakness of Obama, but they're going out if I become president. They will not stay here. They're going back to Syria, whether it's safe zones or whatever, but they're going back to Syria.
You mentioned Iran, and Iran is now talking prisoner swap with the 19 Iranians, that there would be a prisoner swap. What do you think of a prisoner swap?
I said it yesterday. I tweeted, and I had so many responses, thousands and thousands of, as we say in the modern day age, retweets. We're talking about 3 prisoners, because they're not even talking about the 4th. I don't know what happened to the 4th. We have 4 over there. And they're talking now, Iran wants to negotiate, but they want a lot. Number one, they want 19 different people for our 3. Right. Still, nobody's mentioning the 4th. Who is the 4th that they're not mentioning?
So then what is the deal? What is
Well, here's the thing. We should have had those people back as part of this horrible deal we made. It would still be a horrible deal. But we're giving them $150 billion, 24-day inspection. The whole thing is a horror show, right? It couldn't be any worse. It's going to lead to, you talk about a powerful Iran. Iran now is with Russia. unified Russia with Iran. They were never unified like they are now. We've had the dumbest foreign policy in the history of this country. We have unified the Middle East. We've unified Russia, by the way, with China. You know, from the time I'm a young man, I always heard it would be a terrible thing if Russia and China ever got together. Yeah. Guess what? They're together now. You know why? Because of oil. Because Obama has done things to Russia where they ended up unifying with China. So everything is wrong with our foreign policies.
So what do you do then? Because people are asking you to give more specifics about foreign policy.
Well,
so
I have said it, and I've said it 100 times. I don't like talking so specifically. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that like a fool. I'm going to do this, this, this. I want them to understand. I want to be unpredictable. You know, there was a great article about me in the recent past, very recent past actually, and one of my competitors in business said, you know, the toughest thing about Trump is he's so unpredictable. We don't know what he's going to do. I made a great deal, and I took it away from people that thought they had it, and it was very nice. But frankly, the competitor said with respect, not as a negative,
right.
They said Trump is totally unpredictable. And I want to be unpredictable. So when you say, what would you do? You know, I said I'd take the oil. Okay, you know that. And a lot of people, stupid people, said, oh, what a terrible thing. Well, now who has the oil? ISIS has so much oil. They're paying people to be their soldiers. They've got money, and it's because largely of the oil. I said take the oil. And I was against going into Iraq in the first place. Because but Don, it's very important. I was against, I'm the most militaristic person of anybody running, okay? But you have to know when to use it. And ideally, you become so strong you don't have to use it. Now, I was against going in. Nobody else was against going in. Going in was a mistake because, and I said it, you just checked 2004 Reuters in like June.
I know you said it.
No, it's very important because it's called vision. I said you're going to destabilize the Middle East and Iran is going to take over Iraq if you do this. And that's exactly what happened. And by the way, an offshoot, ISIS also happened because of that.
So that's all well and good, and I appreciate you saying that.
Well, I know, but I was the one that predicted it, and I was the one that said it. Nobody else said it.
But Americans who are trying to assess who their next president is going to be at least want to know that you have some sort of plan or have some sort of idea as to what you would do, and that's not...
I have an absolute idea. Now, by the way, ideas change. It's like on policy, and the reason I say I was against it because I think it's important for people to know that I predicted exactly what was going to happen with Iran and Iraq. And I think that's very important for people to know. A lot of the voters, I may be leading in the polls by a lot, but a lot of the voters still don't even know that. I made the best prediction as to, I made not only the best prediction, I made a totally accurate prediction. And as you and I are sitting here, Iran is talking to Iraq, and Iran is taking over Iraq, and they're taking over the second largest oil fields. You know, I don't know if you know, Iraq has tremendous reserves underground. Iran's going to get everything. After we lost all those lives and all that money, because we're led by very stupid people.
And we are just getting started. Up next, are we going to see a kinder, gentler Donald Trump on the campaign trail? Plus, he tells me how he's going to pay for his tax plan. And later, Trump, the family man, what he says about his youngest son, Barron.
Barron loves New York, and he keeps saying, Dad, do you think we'll have to go to Washington? I said, got a long way to go right now.
You are the front runner. You are leading the polls, most of them by double, by big numbers. And so some people are saying, you know what?
Finally you say that.
I've been saying it, but some people say that you should, you may have the nomination. You should act like you have the job. You told our very own Aaron Burnett that, you know, sometimes, yeah, you acquiesce. It's a little bit childish. You know, maybe
I'm fighting a lot of
more
people.
Presidential.
No, but Don, I'm fighting a lot of people that are coming at me because I have good polls, and they, look, you have governors and senators that are at 1.
I just want to know
excuse me, you have a governor, many governors, and many senators that are at 1 and 2 and 3. And you have some polls that I'm at 36. Yeah. So when you see that, and I understand why, I think I do the same thing that they're doing, but all of a sudden they hit me. I mean, I get hit out of the blue by Rand Paul 2 weeks ago. I get hit by this guy Rubio. They hit me because they want to grab some of the attention.
But my question is, if you and I saw you on Fox News, you kind of acquiesced a little bit too. Are we going to see a kinder, gentler Donald Trump?
You are, and I think it's much different once you get into the position. Look, I built a great company, and you don't do that by being, I have a great temperament. Although Jeb Bush said my tone is a little bit tough. This is a tough world. I mean, we can't have people of low energy. I use that expression. There are numerous people. It's not only Jeb. I mean, you have many people that are running that are low energy people. We don't have that choice. But in terms of temperament, I think I have a great temperament. I have a temperament that wins. I know how to win. That's what I've been doing all my life is I've been winning.
The former president, Bill Clinton, talked about the GOP race, and here's what he said.
You shouldn't be able to insult your way to the White House or use enough politically correct phrases to get your way to the White House on either side. And I think as the field winnows down, I hope it'll be get more serious, because the American people deserve some sense of what the heck you're going to do if you actually get the job, because the day after you take the oath of office,
it's yours.
You can't level an insult or you're not in an episode of Survivor. You're actually supposed to show up and run the show.
Okay,
what's your reaction?
Just so you understand. I mean, look, I've had tremendous success with The Apprentice. I did the book, The Art of the Deal, one of the most successful books of all time and business books of all time. I've had a great career. I've had a great amount of victory, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. But so when he sort of says but with me, it's not about that. I've made hundreds and hundreds of deals that have been great deals. You know, we're talking about deals. We're talking about people.
What would you say to him?
And there's no I'll tell you about him. There's no such thing as deals. It's people, because people are basically deals. You have to be able to read, and you have to be able to see what's going on. Most people can't do that. Okay, very, very few can do that. He is defending his wife. His wife has been very nasty to me. Every time she gets up, she makes a speech, she talks about something. I said this, I said that. She's been very nasty to me. I mean, I said she's the worst Secretary of State in the history, and a lot of people agree with that.
But you have complimented her
Carrie,
before.
by the way.
But you've complimented her before.
I have complimented, yeah. When I'm a businessman, I compliment everybody. I would compliment you because I want you to speak well of me, okay? When I'm a businessman, I've been look, as one magazine recently, I have been a world-class businessman. I deal all over the world. I'm successful all over the world. I compliment everybody. I'm not going to say bad about the Secretary of State, and then I'm doing a deal in whatever country I'm doing it. I'm in like 18 different countries right now. I'm nice to everybody.
But you don't think
Why would I not compliment her? Why would I not compliment her? And if you really look at it, the real problem is what has she done as Secretary of State? Now, she's hit me very hard, so I don't feel guilty. But everybody that I have hit, you know, a lot of people say I hit hard, but I'm a counterpuncher. I never go first. When Rubio hit me, I didn't say anything bad about him. He hit me, and look, there's a guy. He's got a terrible record. He's got a lot of things going that are very bad, very weak on immigration, and I hit him hard. I hit Rand Paul hard. He came out of nowhere. I mean, he was, oh, Donald, you're so great. You're so wonderful. All of a sudden, like 3 weeks ago, he starts hitting me. The only time I go after people is when they hit me. I'm a counterpuncher. I don't want to hit them. I think it's bad for the Republican Party. I think it's bad for the whole process. And one of the bad things is that if I win, it's hard for them to support when you hit them that hard. But in the meantime, I have to win one before I look at the other. As far as Hillary is concerned, I don't feel guilty at all, because she has been very nasty to me over the last 3 or 4 weeks in her speeches. So I'm going to hit back.
I have to ask you this, Mr. Trump, and again, as the leader of the free world, if you were to become the leader of the free world, and you said, well, you know, I'm going to compliment, do you think that's being disingenuous, that you're saying one thing and actually
No, I'm being
another?
honest. I'm being honest. When I'm in business as a very top business person, I'm not going to speak badly of senators. I get along with everybody. Hey, excuse me. I get along with the Democrats. I get along with the Republicans. I get along with Nancy Pelosi. I get along with Harry Reid. I get along with everybody.
Yeah.
I've dealt all my life. I've dealt at high levels of politics. And some of your people on your staff can tell you that are in this room right now. And I've done very well.
And you have done very well. And speaking of Forbes, they came out with the richest 400 wealthiest people. You were at 121. You have said your net worth is $10 billion and upwards. They have said $4.5 billion. That's your worth. Who's right?
They're so wrong, it's ridiculous. But that doesn't matter. Because as the expression, when you say what's the difference between $5 billion and $10 billion, probably, for the most part, nothing.
Well, $5 billion.
And they say, I have very low debt, I have tremendous cash flow, I have a wonderful company, I have the most iconic assets. They're totally off. They know they're off. And they told me they're
They
way
said they had
low.
a team of people who were investigating.
Team of people. First of all, they don't even know my assets. I'm a private company. I mean, they're investigating stuff. They hardly even know my assets. But they're way off. And they told me they're way low. But they want to be very conservative. So if they're close to $5 billion and they're being conservative, that's not the worst thing. What they have said, tremendous cash flow, tremendous cash, tremendous assets. My assets are among the best in the world. In real estate, there's nothing like what I have.
I wondered when you came out with your tax plan, if the tax plan that you had, to be quite honest, if it was actually good for Americans who tend to be on the lower end, which can be black and brown people, right, who are on the lower end, because they won't have to pay taxes, right? And
it is good, and it's going to create jobs,
yeah,
which is very important.
People who make less than $25,000, individuals, or couples less than $50,000, zero taxes. Ben Carson said this morning that your plan is a bad one. He said everyone, even the poorest Americans, should pay taxes. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, Ben is somebody I've been really getting along with very well. I like him, but this is not his wheelhouse. Jobs is not for Ben. Putting our country back together in terms of jobs and incentives so people work. I've created tens of thousands of jobs. That's what I do, Don. I build these incredible places and this incredible company, but I've employed tens of thousands of people. Right now, I have thousands of people working for me. Ben's strength is not jobs, and which worries me because we have to make new trade deals. China's ripping us, all of these countries, Japan, Mexico, Brazil, every country that we do business with is taking our base, they're taking our jobs. That's not his expertise, and unless we're going to bring our jobs back to these shores, we're never going to make it as a country.
The question is about, you're talking about no more death tax. Is that, should you, someone like you,
well, the death tax, the problem with the death tax, it's a family.
Let me get the question in. Go ahead. Someone like you who has so much money, should you be able to leave your entire fortune to your family? Because they say it's un-American. That would create an aristocracy here.
Well, first of all, I'm not. I'm going to give a lot of money to charity and all of that, and many people in my position
someone wealthy may not do that.
But let me just explain. There have been so many families where they have a business, and it's a business which isn't a lot of cash, and but there's a lot of assets, and it's got to be run in a certain way. These families have been devastated because they've been forced to mortgage up. They've been forced to do all sorts of things. They've been devastated. But maybe almost more importantly than that, it's really a double and even a triple tax. By the time you get to the death tax, it's a double tax. The tax has already been paid. So if you think about, they've been paying taxes over the years, and the tax has already been paid. You can make the case it's been paid twice. So the death tax is something that actually is very, very popular. People like farmers. They have a farm. They make an income. The farmer's worth X dollars, but they don't make that much income. These people are devastated. They're forced to mortgage up on the farm. They end up losing their farm to the banks. The death tax is a very important element because it's very unfair to a lot of people. And again, it's double taxation.
Okay, so what people wonder is how you're going to pay for these tax cuts you propose, because hosts of tax experts say the deficit is going to skyrocket by trillions of dollars, by 9 to 10 trillion over a decade if your plan goes into effect. How are you going to pay for the
cuts?
Because
I have one of the great scalpels in history. Now, it's different from Ben Carson's scalpel. He was an excellent doctor. But I have a scalpel for business. Mm-hmm. We have costs that are outrageous. I'm going to name over the next couple of weeks, I'm putting out some of the most incredible money that was spent for things that should have cost a few dollars, where they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. The money that we are losing to theft, to incompetence, to everything is tens of billions of dollars. So I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting. For instance, Jeb Bush loves Common Core. I don't. I don't think bureaucrats from Washington should be running education in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and every place else, okay? And we're going to cut out huge sections of, as an example, the Department of Education. Environmental protection. It's disgusting what they've done. They've stopped work, and even a couple of weeks ago, they destroyed a river. They go in, they destroyed the river themselves. They opened up the lock. So here's the thing. There's tremendous cutting that goes with my tax plan that I haven't talked about yet, but that'll be phase 2. So we're going to have a government that's going to be much leaner, much better, much meaner, but it's going to be meaner in the sense of it's going to be efficient. But Don, there is so much money that is being wasted. And when you cut the taxes, you're going to create jobs. We're going to take jobs away from China. We're going to take jobs away from Japan, where they're sending us millions of cars. We get nothing for it. One thing very important, I just did this last week. I told my staff I want to go immediately. I want accurate numbers, very important, on the deficits with China, Japan. We lose almost $400 billion a year to China, $75 billion a year to Japan, $50 billion a year to Mexico. many other countries, we lose with everybody. We don't win anymore.
We come right back. A tough question for Donald Trump. Is he homophobic? See how he answers. Now, things personally, and this is what you're here, but you say that I'm fair to you, right?
I think you have been generally fair. Yeah, you've been unfair, but so has everybody else.
Okay, all right. So you should tell me. You should call me when I'm unfair and tell me about it. But here's the thing that I want to know, and because I think that it could have been handled differently, but you did it your way. You're heading back to New Hampshire, right, for the first time for a town hall. Since the guy at the town hall said the president is a Muslim, that we have problems with the Muslims in this country, and we have to get them out. If something like that comes up again, would you handle it differently?
I don't think so, no. No, I don't think so. I don't know who the gentleman was, but he obviously disliked President Obama very much. I don't think I have to defend President Obama. He was very strong on his stance, and still I don't know who this guy was.
But some would say you're defending
I will
the
tell
truth.
you this.
But you're not defending the president.
Well,
you're defending the
remember
truth.
this. You're not saying I defended. I didn't respond,
Yeah.
okay? It's the first time in my life I've caused controversy, but not responding. I thought I was very good. I didn't respond, and I ended up causing controversy. He said, Muslims are a problem. Okay? That's what he said. Okay. Are they a problem? You tell me. And I say, I don't see the people, and I use it often, that knocked down the World Trade Center going back to Sweden. Okay? So he said, Muslims are a problem. That was part of what he said. Well, I mean, can you make the case that it's been tough? And by the way, most Muslims, I know many, are great people, just so you put it on the record.
So let's say, do you think Muslims are a problem?
Well, I think a certain segment are certainly a problem, and unless you want to be so politically correct where you want me to say, oh, absolutely not. I mean, you have ISIS, you have the migration, you have all of this stuff, you have... You know, a lot of people think you're going to end up with World War III over the Middle East. I've heard that for 25 years. There's something going on when you see beheadings. I mean, beheadings, we haven't seen that since medieval times, beheadings. You see dunkings, they call them dunkings, drownings, where they put people in a cage, dump them in the ocean. There's something going on. Yeah. So when he said Muslims are a problem, am I supposed to say, oh, look, again, you know, you probably won't put this part. I have great friendships with many people who are Muslim living in this building, okay, living here. But I have great friends. They're phenomenal people. And most of them are like that.
Have they
but
asked you about your comments? What do you say to them?
By the way, they think we have a bigger problem than we do. Okay? They think we have a bigger problem because there's a radical Islamic group of people that is brutal. And unless our country gets tough and smart, and unless we have the right leadership done, we're in big trouble.
I hear people say, and many people will say, oh, well, you know, it's just Republicans. It's just, you know, people who are really far right who are talking and supporting Donald Trump. I hear liberals talking about you. I hear Hispanics talking about you. I hear gay people talking about you. And they say, I like what he has to say, but I'm just concerned. If I ask you this question, you answer directly. Do you think that you are homophobic?
No, I think that I'm a very nice person. I love people. And I have to tell you, when you look at those polls, and look at the poll that just came, but it's across the board.
Do you think that
you know who loves me? The Tea Party. The evangelicals. You know, I'm leading with evangelicals. I love them. They love me. I'm Presbyterian. I'm Protestant. And they like me. And you know why? Because they think I'm going to do a great job for the country. They think I'm going to do a great job for the country. But if you look, because you're making it sound like it's far right. The far right does like me.
It's not.
The far right does like me. But you know who else likes me?
I'm saying
Democrats
your appeal
like
is broader than
liberals
people...
like me. It's straight across the board.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Your appeal is broader than people think it is. So let's just
people
get
are
this
very
out of the way.
surprised by that.
So do you think you appeal to African Americans? You're not. Some people may perceive you as racist. Answer that. Do you?
So I just did a speech for the African American Chamber of Commerce of South Carolina, right. And they just wrote the most beautiful letter I think I've received in a long time, saying how unfairly I got treated by the press. I just showed up at an event that they asked me to do. I did it as a favor to a couple of friends of mine who happened to be African American who asked me to go. The dais was packed with people, They were all up front. I made a mistake because I said they ran from their seats. They actually formed there. I could hardly get into the room. It was a great event. And CNN in particular made me look bad. And they wrote a letter, a copy of which I'll give you, which was so beautiful, saying what a great event. It was sold out. It was packed. It was the best event they've ever had. And CNN made me look bad. It was and it wasn't my event. I had nothing to do with it. I just did a favor. I showed up because they showed some empty seats in the back. The fact is, everybody went forward because, in fact, I've never had a speech quite like this. I was surrounded by a tremendous number of people. And in the letter, he said it was totally sold out. It's the most successful event. And what I'm saying is the press is very, very unfair. Okay. But what does happen, and what people are surprised at, is in every one of my polls, not just today's wonderful poll from USA Today, but every single one of the polls, people like you, I think you're one of them, it's straight across the board. Yeah. I get support from everybody.
And you have said that you're not anti-Muslim, so thank you for answering those questions, because I think it's important to clear things up, don't you think? It's important to get to the truth. Let's talk about Planned Parenthood, because you have said that Planned Parenthood, they do some good things, you say. Are you surprised to see what's spilling out in Congress now with Republicans?
No, because they feel very, very, people that are Republicans, like myself, think it's disgusting, some of the tapes that came out and some of the views. Now, you know, they're fighting it, Planned Parenthood is fighting it, but if you look at what's going on with those tapes, anybody that watches those tapes cannot be a fan of Planned Parenthood.
But what our reporting
And you know
shows...
what? They had bad representatives, because when you watch some of those doctors talking so cavalierly about what obviously is human life, I think it's disgraceful.
Okay, but Carly Fiorina has made this a big point of her campaign, talking about the video, right? The Planned Parenthood video.
Well, that was a different video, though. That's a different, you know, there were some videos that were, that was really a video, I guess, that they say was not a correct video.
Right.
But there were plenty of, I don't know anything about that.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, she's been hit very hard on that because they say it wasn't correct. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak to that video. But I've seen some of the other videos that were absolutely correct, and I think it's disgraceful what they're doing.
Up next, Trump opens up about his children and his wife Melania. What we can expect and when we can expect to see her on the campaign trail. The answer when we come back.
Your son, Donald Jr.
Good.
I have said before that you don't see the Trump kids, you know, in and out of clubs or in the tabloids, or you have done, what does that say about you, how the kids you have raised and who they are?
Well, I have children. Everybody has wonderful children. We all love our children.
Is that a good measure of who Donald Trump is?
Well, I think I've done a very good job. I've been very strict. I've been very tough. I've always said no drugs, no alcohol. I even say no cigarettes. To a point where I remember Ivanka, she was like, didn't even know what drugs and alcohol and things were. But she'd say, Dad, you drive me crazy with this. You drive me crazy. But I would say it all the time, every week, every day. No drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. And my kids are good kids. You know, they're smart kids. They work hard. They don't have to work, and they work hard. They went to good colleges. They were very good students. I have very good kids. And one of the things I'm most proud of, a lot of my friends and some very successful people have called me, could you speak to my children? Yeah. Because your children have been good. Now, knock on wood, I hope it continues that way. You know, life is fragile. I hope it continues that way.
I think you're past the point where it goes bad.
I'm past a certain point, but I do have good children.
So let's talk about Melania, right?
Okay.
Your wife. She has said this. She said this to People magazine recently. Even if you give him advice talking about you, he will maybe take it in, but then he will do it the way he wants to do it. You cannot change a person. Did you like what she had to say? Do you agree?
Well, I think it's probably true. Look, I mean, I have my own mind. I do listen to lots of people, and then it goes through that, and I do what I think is right. But I am very open, and I think what she also means is that I'm very open to listening to a lot of different ideas and a lot of different people.
Do you think, we saw her, you know, coming down the escalator with you when you made your announcement, standing by your side. Are we going to see more of her on the campaign trail?
I think very much so. She's very much into the whole women's health issues. I think she'll be amazing, and I think Ivanka is going to be amazing. And they actually told me, because I have such great respect for women, and I cherish women, and some people say, oh, you shouldn't say cherish. Hillary Clinton said, you shouldn't say cherish. Why? I cherish women. I so respect them and so cherish them. I will be better on women's health issues than anybody. But one of the things that both Melania and Ivanka told me is, Dad, you should explain your love for women and your respect for women. And they're going to be out very much on the campaign trail.
What kind of a first lady do you think Melania would be?
I think she will be incredible.
Yeah.
I think she will. She's got a tremendous heart. I think she'll be incredible.
She said, listen, my job right now, I'm not on the campaign trail, is because, you know, my husband has gone a lot. He's out campaigning, and I need to be at home with Barron because Barron needs... What does Barron think of all of this?
Well, Barron loves New York, and he keeps saying, Dad, do you think we'll have to go to Washington? I said, we've got a long way to go right now. But he loves his school, and he loves New York. He's got a lot of friends. So right now, I think he would be very happy to stay in New York. But he asked me, do you think we'll have to go? And I always tell him we have a long way to go.
Donald Trump.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Don.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We know how much you love hand-raising questions. So we promise this is the only one tonight. The only one. Is there anyone on stage, and can I see hands, who is unwilling tonight to pledge your support to the eventual nominee of the Republican Party and pledge to not run an independent campaign against that person. Again, we're looking for you to raise your hand now. Raise your hand now if you won't make that pledge tonight. Mr. Trump. So, Mr. Trump, to be clear, you're standing on a Republican primary debate.
I fully understand.
The place where the RNC will give the nominee the nod.
I fully understand.
And that experts say an independent run would almost certainly hand the race over to Democrats and likely another Clinton. You can't say tonight that you can make that pledge.
I cannot say. I have to respect the person that if it's not me, the person that wins. If I do win and I'm leading by quite a bit, that's what I want to do. I can totally make that pledge. If I'm the nominee, I will pledge I will not run as an independent. But and I am discussing it with everybody. But I'm, talking about a lot of leverage. We want to win, and we will win. But I want to win as the Republican. I want to run as the Republican nominee.
So tonight you can't say if another one of these...
This is what's wrong. I mean, This is what's wrong. He buys and sells politicians of all stripes. He's already...
Dr. Paul.
Hey, look, he's already hedging his bet on the Clintons, okay? So if he doesn't run as a Republican, maybe he supports Clinton or maybe runs as an independent.
Okay.
But I'd say that he's already hedging his bets because he's used to buying politicians.
Well, I've given him plenty of money.
Just to be clear, you can't make it. We're going to move on. You're not going to make the pledge tonight.
I will not make the pledge at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Trump, you've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Your Twitter account, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president? And how will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either. This country is in big trouble. We don't win anymore. We lose to China. We lose to Mexico, both in trade and at the border. We lose to everybody. And frankly, what I say, and oftentimes it's fun, it's kidding, we have a good time, what I say is what I say. And honestly, Megyn, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that. But you know what? We need strength, we need energy, we need quickness, and we need brain in this country to turn it around. That I can tell you right now.
And government is sending criminals, rapists, drug dealers to Brooklyn. I'd like you're right next to him, tell us evidence that the Mexican government is doing this, but that you evidence that the Mexican government is doing this, but that you have evidence you have refused or declined to share. Why not use this first Republican presidential debate to share your proof with the American people? So,
if it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration, Chris. You wouldn't even be talking about it. This was not a subject that was on anybody's mind until I brought it up at my announcement, and I said Mexico is sending. Except the reporters, because they're a very dishonest lot, generally speaking, in the world of politics, they didn't cover my statement the way I said it. The fact is, since then, many killings, murders, crime, drugs pouring across the border, our money going out and the drugs coming in. And I said, we need to build a wall. and it has to be built quickly. And I don't mind having a big, beautiful door in that wall so that people can come into this country legally. But we need, Jeb, to build a wall. We need to keep illegals out.
Mr. Trump, I'll give you 30 seconds. I'll give you 30 seconds to answer my question, which was, what evidence do you have, specific evidence, that the Mexican government is sending criminals across the border? 30 seconds.
Border Patrol, I was at the border last week. Border Patrol, people that I deal with, that I talk to, they say this is what's happening because our leaders are stupid. Our politicians are stupid. And the Mexican government is much smarter, much sharper, much more cunning, and they send the bad ones over because they don't want to pay for them. They don't want to take care of them. Why should they when the stupid leaders of the United States will do it for them? And that's what's happening, whether you like it or not.
Series of questions deals with Obamacare and the role of the federal government. Mr. Trump, Obamacare is one of the things you call a disaster.
Complete disaster, yes.
Saying it needs to be repealed and replaced.
Correct.
Now, 15 years ago, you called yourself a liberal on health care. You were for a single-payer system, a Canadian-style system. Why were you for that then, and why aren't you for it now?
First of all, I'd like to just go back to one. In July of 2004, I came out strongly against the war with Iraq because it was going to destabilize the Middle East, and I'm the only one on the stage that knew that and had the vision to say it, and that's exactly what happened. The Middle East became totally destabilized. So I just want to say, as far as single payer, it works in Canada. It works incredibly well in Scotland. It could have worked in a different age, which is the age you're talking about here. What I'd like to see is a private system without the artificial lines around every state. I have a big company with thousands and thousands of employees, and if I'm negotiating in New York or in New Jersey or in California, I have like one bidder. Nobody can bid. You know why? Because the insurance companies are making a fortune because they have control of the politicians, of course, with the exception of the politicians on the stage. But they have total control of the politicians. They're making a fortune. Get rid of the artificial lines, and you will have yourself great plans. And then we have to take care of the people that can't take care of themselves, and I will do that through a different system.
Hey, Mr. Trump, hold on one second.
Newsflash.
I know. Hold on, Senator Paul.
Newsflash, the Republican Party's been fighting against a single-payer system for a decade. So I think you're on the wrong side of this if you're still arguing for a single-payer system.
I don't think you heard me. You're having a hard time tonight.
All right,
Newsflash.
I know. Hold on, Senator Paul.
Newsflash, the Republican Party's been fighting against a single-payer system for a decade. So I think you're on the wrong side of this if you're still arguing for a single-payer system.
I don't think you heard me. You're having a hard time tonight.
All right, Mr. Trump, it's not just your past support for single-payer health care. You've also supported a host of other liberal policies. You've also donated to several Democratic candidates, Hillary Clinton included, Nancy Pelosi. You explained away those donations, saying you did that to get business-related favors. And you said recently, quote, when you give, they do whatever the hell you want them to do.
You better believe it.
So what specifically did they do?
If I ask them, if I need them, you know, most of the people on this stage I've given to, just so you understand. A lot of money.
Not me.
Not me. But you're welcome to give me a check, Donald, if you like.
Many of them.
Actually, to be clear,
That's
he
right.
supported
Not
Charlie Crist.
Not Mike.
Hey, Charlie,
but I have.
Donald, if you end your campaign, I hope you will give to me.
Good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me, Governor. I will tell you that our system is broken. I give to many people. Before 2 months ago, I was a businessman. I give to everybody. When they call, I give. And you know what? When I need something from them, 2 years later, 3 years later, I call them. They are there for me. And that's a broken system.
So what'd you get from Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi?
Well, I'll tell you what. With Hillary Clinton, I said, be at my wedding, and she came to my wedding. You know why? She had no choice because I gave. I gave to a foundation that, frankly, that foundation is supposed to do good. I didn't know her money would be used on private jets going all over the world. It was. But okay?
Mr. Trump, thank you. Hold on. We're gonna move on. We'll come back to you, Governor.
Mr. Trump.
Getting a little R-rated.
Mr. Trump, you talk a lot about how you are the person on this stage to grow the economy. I want to ask you about your business record. Trump corporations, casinos and hotels, have declared bankruptcy 4 times over the last quarter century. In 2011, you told Forbes magazine this: "I've used the laws of the country to my advantage." But at the same time, financial experts involved in those bankruptcies say that lenders to your companies lost billions of dollars. Question, sir, with that record, why should we trust you to run the nation's business?
Because I have used the laws of this country, just like the greatest people that you read about every day in business have used the laws of this country, the chapter laws, to do a great job for my company, for myself, for my employees, for my family, etc. I have never gone bankrupt, by the way. I have never. But out of hundreds of deals,
but sir,
excuse me,
that's your line, but your companies have gone bankrupt.
Out of what am I saying? Out of hundreds of deals that I've done, hundreds, on 4 occasions, I've taken advantage of the laws of this country, like other people. I'm not going to name their names because I'm not going to embarrass, but virtually every person that you read about on the front page of the business sections, they've used the law. The difference is when somebody else uses those laws, nobody writes about it. When I use it, they say, oh, Trump, Trump, Trump. The fact is, I built a net worth of more than $10 billion. I have a great, great company. I employ thousands of people, and I'm very proud of the job I did. Again, Chris, hundreds and hundreds of deals. 4 times I've taken advantage of the laws, and frankly, so has everybody else in my position.
Well, sir, let's just talk about the latest example, which is Trump Entertainment Resorts, which went bankrupt in 2009. In that case alone, lenders to your company lost over $1 billion and more than 1,100 people were laid off.
Well,
is that the way that you run the country?
Let me just tell you about the lenders. First of all, these lenders aren't babies. These are total killers. These are not the nice, sweet little people that you think, okay? You know, I mean, you're living in a world of the make-believe, Chris. You want to know the truth. And I had the good sense to leave Atlantic City, which, by the way, Caesars just went bankrupt. Every company, Chris can tell you, every company virtually in Atlantic City went bankrupt. Every company. And let me just tell you, I had the good sense, and I've gotten a lot of credit in the financial pages. 7 years ago, I left Atlantic City before it totally cratered, and I made a lot of money in Atlantic City, and I'm very proud of it. I want to tell you that. Very, very proud of it.
Senator,
and by the way, this country right now owes $19 trillion, and they need somebody like me to straighten out that mess.
Mr. Trump, in 1999, you said you were, quote, very pro-choice, even supporting partial birth abortion. You favored an assault weapons ban as well. In 2004, you said in most cases you identified as a Democrat. Even in this campaign, your critics say you often sound more like a Democrat than a Republican, calling several of your opponents on this stage things like clowns and puppets. When did you actually become a Republican?
I don't think they like me very much. I'll tell you what, I've evolved on many issues over the years, and you know who else has is Ronald Reagan evolved on many issues. And I am pro-life, and if you look at the question, I was in business, they asked me a question as to pro-life or choice, and I said, if you let it run, that I hate the concept of abortion. I hate the concept of abortion. And then since then, I've very much evolved. And what happened is friends of mine years ago were going to have a child, and it was going to be aborted, and it wasn't aborted. And that child today is a total superstar, a great, great child. And I saw that, and I saw other instances. And I am very, very proud to say that I am pro-life. As far as being a Republican is concerned, I come from a place, New York City, which is virtually, I mean, it's almost exclusively Democrat. And I have really started to see some of the negatives. As an example, and I have a lot of liking for this man, but the last number of months of his brother's administration were a catastrophe. And unfortunately, those few months gave us President Obama, and you can't be happy about that.
Governor Bush, I want to ask you on the subject of name calling of your fellow candidates. A story appeared today quoting an anonymous GOP donor who said you called Mr. Trump a clown, a buffoon, something else that cannot be repeated on television.
None of which is true.
Is it true?
No, it's not true. But I have said that Mr. Trump's language is divisive. I want to win. I want one of these people here, or the ones at 5 o'clock, to be the next president of the United States. We're not going to win by doing what Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton do each and every day, dividing the country, creating a grievance kind of environment. We're going to win when we unite people with a hopeful, optimistic message. I have that message because I was a governor of a state that saw people lifted up because we had high sustained economic growth. Our economy grew at double the rate of the nation. We created 1.3 million jobs. We led the nation 7 out of those 8 years. We were only one of 2 states that went to AAA bond rating. I cut taxes $19 billion. If you do that and apply conservative principles the right way, you create an environment where everybody rises up. That's how we're going to win. Campaigning in places to give people hope that their life is better because too many people are suffering today in America.
Mr. Trump, 30 seconds.
Well, first of all, Jeb, I am very happy that you denied that, and I appreciate that very much. I mean, he's a true gentleman. He really is. The one thing he did say about, and I mean that, the one thing he did say about me, however, was my tone, and I also understand that. But when you have people that are cutting Christians' heads off, when you have a world at the border and at so many places that it's medieval times, it's almost got to be as bad as it ever was in terms of the violence and the horror. We don't have time for tone. We have to go out and get the job done.
About a top Iranian general traveling to Moscow to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. His name is General Qasem Soleimani. He's blamed for hundreds of U.S. troops' deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan. His trip to Russia appears to directly violate UN Security Council resolutions to confine him to Iran. So, Mr. Trump, if you were president, how would you respond to this?
I would be so different from what you have right now, like the polar opposite. We have a president who doesn't have a clue. I would say he's incompetent, but I don't want to do that because that's not nice. But if you look at the deals we make, whether it's the nuclear deal with 24-hour periods, and by the way, before you get to the 24 hours, you have to go through a system. You look at Sergeant Bergdahl. We get Bergdahl, a traitor, and they get 5 of the big, great killers, leaders that they want. We have people in Washington that don't know what they're doing. Now, I agree. Now, with Iran, we're making a deal. You would say, we want him. We want him. We want our prisoners. We want all these things. We don't get anything. We're giving them $150 billion plus. They are going to be, I'll tell you what, if Iran was a stock, you folks should go out and buy it right now because you'll quadruple. What's happened in Iran is a disgrace, and it's going to lead to destruction in large portions of the world.
Closing statement, sir.
Our country is in serious trouble. We don't win anymore. We don't beat China in trade. We don't beat Japan with their millions and millions of cars coming into this country in trade. We can't beat Mexico at the border or in trade. We can't do anything right. Our military has to be strengthened. Our vets have to be taken care of. We have to end Obamacare, and we have to make our country great again, and I will do that. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you.
It's over.
That's it.
You relieved? You were nervous before? They don't look relieved. They're like, get me out of here. Thank you all very much, and that will do it.
There's been another mass shooting in America, this time in a community college in Oregon. That means there are more American families, moms, dads, children, whose lives have been changed forever. That means there's another community stunned with grief, and communities across the country forced to relieve their own anguish, and parents across the country who are scared because they know it might have been their families or their children. I've been to Roseburg, Oregon. There are really good people there. I want to thank all the first responders whose bravery likely saved some lives today. Federal law enforcement has been on the scene in a supporting role, and we've offered to stay and help as much as Roseburg needs for as long as they need. In the coming days, we'll learn about the victims, young men and women who were studying and learning and working hard, their eyes set on the future, their dreams on what they could make of their lives. And America will wrap everyone who's grieving with our prayers and our love. But as I said just a few months ago, and I said a few months before that, and I said each time we see one of these mass shootings, our thoughts and prayers are not enough. It's not enough. It does not capture the heartache and grief and anger that we should feel. And it does nothing to prevent this carnage from being inflicted someplace else in America. Next week, or a couple of months from now. We don't yet know why this individual did what he did. And it's fair to say that anybody who does this has a sickness in their minds, regardless of what they think their motivations may be. But we are not the only country on earth that has people with mental illnesses or want to do harm to other people. We are the only advanced country on earth that sees these kinds of mass shootings every few months. Earlier this year, I answered a question in an interview by saying, the United States of America is the one advanced nation on earth in which we do not have sufficient common sense gun safety laws, even in the face of repeated mass killings. And later that day, there was a mass shooting at a movie theater in Lafayette, Louisiana. That day. Somehow this has become routine. The reporting is routine. My response here at this podium ends up being routine. The conversation in the aftermath of it, we've become numb to this. We talked about this after Columbine and Blacksburg, after Tucson, after Newtown, after Aurora, after Charleston. It cannot be this easy for somebody who wants to inflict harm on other people to get his or her hands on a gun. And what's become routine, of course, is the response of those who oppose any kind of common sense gun legislation. Right now, I can imagine the press releases being cranked out. We need more guns, they'll argue. Fewer gun safety laws. Does anybody really believe that? There are scores of responsible gun owners in this country. They know that's not true. We know because of the polling that says the majority of Americans understand we should be changing these laws, including the majority of responsible, law-abiding gun owners. There is a gun for roughly every man, woman, and child in America. So how can you, with a straight face, make the argument that more guns will make us safer? We know that states with the most gun laws tend to have the fewest gun deaths. So the notion that gun laws don't work or just will make it harder for law-abiding citizens and criminals will still get their guns. It's not borne out by the evidence. We know that other countries, in response to one mass shooting, have been able to craft laws that almost eliminate mass shootings. Friends of ours, allies of ours, Great Britain, Australia, countries like ours. So we know there are ways to prevent it. And of course, what's also routine is that somebody somewhere will comment and say, Obama politicized this issue. Well, this is something we should politicize. It is relevant to our common life together, to the body politic. I would ask news organizations, because I won't put these facts forward, have news organizations tally up the number of Americans who've been killed through terrorist attacks over the last decade and the number of Americans who've been killed by gun violence. And post those side by side on your news reports. This won't be information coming from me, it will be coming from you. We spend over $1 trillion and pass countless laws and devote entire agencies to preventing terrorist attacks on our soil, and rightfully so. And yet, we have a Congress that explicitly blocks us from even collecting data on how we could potentially reduce gun deaths. How can that be? This is a political choice that we make to allow this to happen every few months in America. We collectively are answerable to those families who lose their loved ones because of our inaction. When Americans are killed in mine disasters, we work to make mines safer. When Americans are killed in floods and hurricanes, we make communities safer. When roads are unsafe, we fix them to reduce auto fatalities. We have seatbelt laws because we know it saves lives. So the notion that gun violence is somehow different, that our freedom and our Constitution prohibits any modest regulation of how we use a deadly weapon, when there are law-abiding gun owners all across the country who could hunt and protect their families and do everything they do under such regulations. Doesn't make sense. So, tonight, as those of us who are lucky enough to hug our kids a little closer, are thinking about the families who aren't so fortunate, I'd ask the American people to think about how they can get our government to change.
That's some group of people. So we're going to be discussing something so important for our country, for our economy, and for getting us all working again and working well again. It's a tax reform that I think will make America strong and great again. Too few Americans are working, too many jobs are being shipped overseas, and too many middle-income families cannot make ends meet. This plan directly meets these challenges and the challenges also of business. It will provide major tax relief for middle income and for most other Americans. There will be a major tax reduction. It'll simplify the tax code. It'll grow the American economy at a level that it hasn't seen for decades. And all of this does not add to our debt or our deficit, but I'll also be discussing some of that at the end, because we have to make much better deals, we have to negotiate much harder, and we've got to make our economy strong. Changes for individuals will be at levels that you haven't seen in a long time. We're going to cut the individual rates from 7 brackets to 4. Simplification. 25%, 20%, 10%, and 0. If you're single and earn less than $25,000 per year, or married and jointly earn less than $50,000. So, very important. If you're single and earn less than $25,000, or married and jointly earn less than $50,000, you'll not pay any income tax, nothing. This eliminates very strongly and quickly the marriage penalty, very unfair penalty. It eliminates the AMT, which is the alternative minimum tax. It ends the death tax. It's a double taxation. A lot of families go through hell over the death tax. It reduces or eliminates most of the deductions and loopholes available to special interests and to the very rich. In other words, it's going to cost me a fortune, which is actually true, while preserving charitable giving and mortgage interest deductions, very importantly. It ends the current tax treatment of carried interest. Those are the hedge fund folks that I've been talking about for quite a while. They make a lot of money, carried interest. So it ends the current tax treatment of carried interest for speculative partnerships that do not grow businesses or create jobs and are not risking their own capital. Changes for business. Now, so important, because it's all about business, it's all about jobs. We have 93 million people in this country that are in serious trouble, that want to work, they can't work. So for business, no business of any size, from a Fortune 500 company to a mom and pop shop to a freelancer living from gig to gig, will pay more than 15% of their business income in taxes. Big reduction. A one-time deemed repatriation of corporate cash held overseas at significantly discount, which coming back at a significantly discount, 10%. So it comes back discounted at a 10% tax rate and ends the deferral of taxes on corporate income earned abroad. Now, it's called corporate inversion. It's a huge subject. I've been watching politicians now for years. All talk, no action politicians. I've been watching them for years talking about bringing this money back. The number is probably $2.5 trillion. Everybody agrees it should come back. Republicans, Democrats, everybody. They can't make a deal. They don't know how to go about making a deal. The reason companies aren't bringing it back is the tax is onerous. It doesn't make sense to bring it back. And in fact, many companies are leaving the United States. They're leaving our shores to go and collect their money They're actually moving out of the United States for two reasons. The taxes are too high, and because they have tremendous amounts of money that they can't bring back into this country when everybody wants them to bring it back in. It's called leadership. We will have that money brought back in. As an example, I have millions of dollars overseas. I can't bring it back into this country. We file papers. We've been doing this for a year and a half. You can't get it back in. So the money stays in other countries, and that's what happens. Not good for us. The level of leadership that we need to get things like this done is so important. But this is something, and I've been watching it for a long time, everybody agrees to. We also reduce or eliminate some business loopholes, many of them actually, and deductions made unnecessary or redundant by the new lower tax rate on business income. The tax rate now is so low that a lot of these deductions, which are complicated, which don't make sense, and which are unfair, are gone. And we phase in a reasonable cap on the deductibility of the business interest expense. So we are going to give you, we have a very complex set of papers that actually, if you know business, is not so complex. And we're going to hand them out right now to the press. And I think you'll see, we have an amazing code. It will be simple, it will be easy, it will be fair. It's graduated. As you get up in income, you pay a little more. Some of the very unfair deductions that certain people have been given who make a lot of money will not be available any longer. But I actually believe they'll do better because I think the economy will grow. It'll grow rapidly, and we'll have something very special. Now, with all of that being said, and before we take some questions, we have to cut the costs of what's going on in this country. If you look at what we're doing and the money we're spending, I read where a washer, you know what a washer is? Nuts, bolts, and washer. To send from one state to another, it was a 19-cent washer, and it cost $900 and some odd thousand to send it from here to there. And there are many examples. Hammers that cost $800 that you can buy in a store for a tiny amount of money. We will run this country properly. There is so much money to be saved. We're reducing taxes, but at the same time, if I win, if I become president, we will be able to cut so much money and have a better country. We won't be losing anything other than we'll be balancing budgets and getting them where they should be. So this is a plan that's simple, that's a major reduction. I think people are going to be very happy. We've already had some very good reviews. I did the plan with some of the leading scholars and economists and tax experts that there are in this country. They love it. They say, why hasn't this been done before? And this is my wheelhouse. That's what I do well. The economy is what I do well. Whenever they do polls, I always come out way above everybody else on the economy. And on leadership, by the way, but I won't say that. So if anybody has... Wow. Thank you. That's amazing. That's some of the press was actually clapping. I never saw that. I don't think I've ever seen that before. All right, why don't we take some questions from the press? Yes, go ahead. No, I'm not going to do that yet. I have to get their approval. But we have some of the top people in the country worked on this. Well, we're looking at a 3%, but we think it can be 5, it could even be 6. We're going to have growth that will be tremendous. And by the way, if we have more than 3, these numbers are really spectacular. And one of the things that they don't take into account in any big league fashion is the cutting. There is so much waste in government that I believe when I get in there, I'll be able to cut, without losing anything, to cut tremendous amounts off of the, and we're not even showing anything for that. So they're very conservative numbers. Yes, Sarah. Yeah. my taxes will, first of all, I'll have a much simpler tax statement. It'll be much simpler. When I do my return, my returns go up to the ceiling and beyond, which is ridiculous. And you spend millions high level on lawyers, accountants, and everything else. We want to simplify them to a tremendous level. The bracket of 25, the big difference is many of the loopholes and many of the deductions, which are old, have been there for years, are antiquated in many cases, or are put there because a lot of the people that get these deductions are contributed to Hillary, they're contributing to Bush, they're contributing to every candidate but Trump, because I'm not taking any money, I'm self-funding. And these people want these deductions. There will be people, we're reducing taxes, but believe me, there will be people in the very upper echelons that won't be thrilled with this. We're taking away deductions, and that's one of the reasons we're able to lower it so. Yeah, this is actually a tax reduction. A big tax reduction, including for the upper income. I believe that the economy will do so well that even though they won't be getting certain deductions, which aren't fair for them to be getting, that they'll end up doing better. Okay, Jess, go ahead. I just think this is a common sense approach. You know, we could say supply side, you could say there's 15 different names given out for different kinds of reductions or increases. I don't think it's supply side or anything else. I think this is a common sense, well thought out tax proposal that's going to trigger the economy, going to make everybody go back and really want to work. It's going to create tremendous numbers of jobs. One of the other things that I'm coupling this with is if I become president, I'm going to renegotiate our trade deals, because our trade deals are not sustainable by this country. Not sustainable. We cannot continue to let our jobs go to all of the different countries. There's not a country that we negotiate with that doesn't make a better deal. Everybody. We lose money with everything. I'm also going to renegotiate some of our military costs, because we protect South Korea. We protect Germany. We protect some of the wealthiest countries in the world, Saudi Arabia. We protect everybody. We protect everybody. And we don't get reimbursement. We lose on everything. We lose on everything. So we're going to negotiate and renegotiate trade deals, military deals, many other deals that's going to get the cost down for running our country very significantly. I'm not showing a big number in that, but I believe that if I become president, those numbers are going to be massive. As an example, Saudi Arabia, they make $1 billion a day. We protect them. So we need help. We're losing a tremendous amount of money on a yearly basis, and we owe $19 trillion. I used to say 18 for the last 6-7 months. Now it's 19, and it's only going up. Yes, Tom? Well, now, Senator Rubio is a lightweight. We understand that. He wouldn't be able to do this. He wouldn't know a trade deal from any other deal. And what certain people are trying to do is they're trying to take, we just went up in the last poll, we went up 2 points in the last poll, and we continue to go up. In the NBC poll, I think we went from 26 to 29. We're going up very strongly in the polls. They don't know what to do about it. I built a great company. You'll see that in 60 Minutes last night. I built a great company. It's a phenomenal company with very little debt, tremendous cash flow. I'm funding my own campaign. Guys like Rubio, I mean, he desperately needs money. Ask the car dealer in Florida. Ask the people that support him. And a guy like Rubio and others, I don't want to single him out. You're singling him out. But they're largely controlled by their donors, the special interests, and frankly, more than anybody else, the lobbyists. I've turned down millions and millions of dollars from lobbyists and special interests because it's not the right thing. It's just not right. And that seems to be resonating very strongly. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I negotiate. It's true, I do. I get bills from people and I negotiate. Well, is that a bad thing? The country should do that. Yeah, I would. I'd bring that same attitude to the White House. It's true. She said, I have a habit. When you get a bill, you call up and you negotiate. To me, that's a compliment. No, I want to take that thinking to the White House. I would bet you we could save 20. I could even say more, but we could save a tremendous amount. That has to be the attitude our country has. You can't spend millions and millions of dollars on doing something that you can do for $2,000. You know, when you look at costs, we just spent $1 million building a soccer field, okay? A soccer field for our prisoners that happen to be in Guantanamo, okay? I don't like that. What do you need $1 million for? Level out the surface, let them play, if they have to play at all, okay? What do you need to spend $1 million? We just spent, it's a story today, $1 million on a soccer field. How do you spend $1 million doing the soccer field? You have a level piece of land. Throw them a ball, let them play soccer. If they have to play at all, why are they playing soccer is my question. Okay, yes, sir, go ahead. No, it's too long. You don't have time. You're not time. All right, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead? Right. No, not at all. We're lowering taxes, which the Republicans love. And I think one of the reasons I am doing so well in the polls, and one of the reasons I'm doing so well when it comes to the economy in all polls, is that this is the thinking. No, we're lowering taxes very substantially, we're simplifying, and we're getting rid of deductions that are actually obsolete that certain people want to keep for certain reasons. So no, that's not true. Yes, sir, go ahead. Well, Putin was interviewed and I was interviewed last night. I thought Charlie Rose did an excellent job, but I thought his was a softer interview. Scott Pelley interviewed me. I thought Scott was terrific. I mean, it was a tough interview, but I thought he was very fair. And I thought the piece was very good. Yeah, go ahead. Why is he harder on me than Putin? I would say because Putin is a nicer person than I am. Okay, go ahead. Right, right. It's the worst in 36 years. Okay. Well, it's a good question, and you can connect the dots, but I guess it has been probably since 2004, you know, you're talking about 10, 11, 12 years, that people have wanted to bring the money back into the country. And again, it's called corporate inversion, and a lot of times the corporations are moving out and they're going to other countries, taking jobs. And now we have a really big problem because we have serious companies, very large, very prestigious companies, as you know. Obviously, you know something about business, but we have major companies looking to move out of the United States. You know, it used to be they'd move from New York to Florida, they'd move from New Jersey to Texas or whatever. Now they're talking about moving from the United States to Ireland and to England and to other places, to Spain, where they get treated differently and, frankly, better. And they're doing that for a number of the reasons, but one of the big reasons, as you know, is taxes. One of the other reasons is to get all of this cash that they've built up and they can't get back into our country. And when this money comes back into our country that everybody wants, it's going to be put to work in our country largely. It can go other places, but largely. And I think it'll be an amazing boon. Now, here's the other thing. They think it's $2.5 trillion. I think it's much more than that. I actually think it's going to be more money than that. And boy, if it is, we have hit pay dirt. Yeah, go ahead, real fast. Well, you know, when you end the repatriation, when you get the money coming back in, beyond, tremendous things happen. Sarah, go ahead. Well, I'll be announcing that in the not-too-distant future. But I will tell you, I've been honest. I'm the only one that's honest about this thing. I watched Romney and I watched, I pay so much tax, I pay so much tax. I watch all politicians and they say, I fight like hell to pay as little as possible. Can I say that? I'm not a politician. I fight like hell, always. Can I say that? I'm not a politician. I fight like hell, always. Because it's an expense. And you know, I'd feel, and I fight. I have the best lawyers and the best accountants, and I fight, and I pay. Well, I'll tell you what, in terms of income inequality, we're going to create a lot of jobs. You know, right now, we have a false 5.4, 5.3, 5.6. Every month is different. It is such a phony number because when people look, and then they give up looking for a job, they're taken off the roll. So the number isn't reflective. I've seen numbers of 24%. I actually saw a number of 42% unemployment. 42%. And it could be because when you're looking for a job and you go around and you look and you look and you fight and you want to work and you want to take care of your family and then you can't get the job, and you know what I'm talking about because you're shaking your head and you can't get the job, essentially for statistical purposes, you are considered employed. So then I read every time it comes out, I hear 5.3% unemployment. That is the biggest joke there is in this country. That number is so false. And you know, people ask, how come Trump is doing so well and Carson and others? How come they're doing, you know why they're doing well? Because people are tired of political speak. They're tired of that. And the worst example of it, one of the worst example of it, is the phony unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is probably 20%. But I will tell you, you have some great economists that will tell you it's 30, 32, and the highest I've heard so far is 42%. There's anger out there at the job picture. Now, one other thing. With that being said, China, Japan, Mexico, Brazil, these countries are all taking our jobs like we're a bunch of babies. That will stop. People will treat us fairly if I become president. We are losing our jobs, we're losing our base, we're losing our manufacturing. All of that will stop. Yeah, go ahead. Well, this is number one, it's simplification. Number two, what I'm really doing is the big picture, because corporations now are going to start having an incentive to create jobs. They're going to have an incentive also to stay in this country. They're going to spend, well, if they provide bigger dividends, people are going to have more money to spend. So that's not so bad either. If a corporation gives out a bigger dividend, that's great. Mr. Jones gets a bigger dividend, he's going to have more money to spend in the economy. So that's good. Yes, ma'am. Should Chris Christie what? I know nothing about that. Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm not a populist. No, I'm not. I'm a man of great common sense. I'm a man that's built a tremendous company with the best locations in real estate, the best everything. You're here at one of them. I have many of these. A great job. I've employed tens of thousands of people. I employ now thousands and thousands of people. I've done a good job, but I wouldn't say populist at all. I would say I'm a man of common sense. I'm cutting taxes. I'm going to create a lot of jobs. I'm going to get rid of a tremendous amount of waste. And I'll tell you what, the waste that I get rid of, is going to have a huge impact. And I'm not even putting that in my numbers. So I think it's going to be terrific. All right, how about one more question? Go ahead. Yes, the motor industry. That's a beautiful way of describing it. The motor industry. Where are you from? England. I love oh, what a beautiful accent. No, I want to get the industry, we call it the automobile industry, but I want to get the automobile industry to build factories here. As you know, Ford is building a $2.5 billion factory in Mexico. Mexico also took a big plant out of Tennessee, and Tennessee thought they were going to get it, and they didn't. I want the motor companies, as you would say, or the automobile companies to build their plants in the United States. I don't want Nabisco leaving for Mexico or any place else. I want these companies not to leave Chicago, not to leave Michigan, not to leave New Hampshire and Iowa and South Carolina and all of these places where they're leaving and they're going to other countries. I want them to stay here, and they will stay here, and they'll be so happy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been a great honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Donald Trump joins us. Mr. Trump, thank you very much. If you were president of the United States today, I would imagine you'd be preparing for the big storm.
Well, you'd be preparing for a lot of problems, I can tell you. It's we have bigger problems even than the storm if you look at our country. We have some very big problems.
Well, you're right about that.
You know, Donald Trump, as we speak to you now, we understand Hillary Clinton's having a rough day today. Her emails were attempted to be hacked by Russians, and we know at least over the course of 4 hours on an August date in 2011. This is something that we've been going through this morning, and we have about 3 of them that we can show you. But before we go through the specifics on these emails, what about Hillary Clinton's situation here, that she was made vulnerable by these Russian hackers in the form of fake speeding tickets, strikes you?
Well, look, the whole thing is terrible for our country. What she did as Secretary of State was ridiculous, and you know, she wanted total privacy for whatever reason. You would have had much more privacy the other way, but what she did is totally illegal. You look at what happened to General Petraeus, and as somebody who's a real expert on the subject said to me, he was 5% of what she did. It was nothing by comparison, and they destroyed his life. I mean, you know, they basically gave him a 2-year sentence. And what she did was totally illegal. And it's hard to believe that nothing further is... I mean, it's hard to believe that she's even talking about running for president. You wouldn't believe it's possible, frankly, with what she's done and even the criminality involved, that she can be talking about running for president.
Well, speaking of the criminality, if she, you know, the FBI is looking at it right now. If they decide not to indict her, what would that say? It would obviously be politics, right?
Well, I think they probably won't indict her because...
You don't?
Yeah, because the Attorney General is from New York, who I believe is a friend of Hillary Clinton. I think they probably won't indict her, and it's very unfair to General Petraeus and other people who have been indicted for far less than what she's done. But it's pure politics, and it's Democrats. And what will be interesting, if a Republican gets in, hopefully it's going to be Trump, if a Republican gets in, what would be, you know, you have a 6-year statute of limitations on this. What would be interested if the Republicans get in, what would happen to her? Would they go after her? Because then you would have somebody that would be, I'm sure, very fair, but they'd look at it fairly, and would that happen? She may very well have to win the presidency because she may have bigger problems if she doesn't.
Right. Here's an example of the emails that have emerged, and you know they're about 30% through. We're going to see drip, drip, drip. This is to Cheryl Mills, her assistant, who made the decision that the state will not use the terms mother and father, and it says substitute parent in 1 or 2. I'm not defending the decision, but I disagree with. I knew nothing about it in front of this Congress. I could live with letting people in non-traditional families choose another descriptor. So as long as we retain the resumption of mother and father, we need to address this, or we will be facing huge Fox-generated media storm led by Palin et al. So she had no clue about what we actually were doing on Fox and Friends. But
not the equality candidate that she is today.
Now she did.
Right. Let's move on and let's talk about something else. We were talking about your comments 48 hours ago before the new news happened, with Russia going ahead and bombing and giving us hours' notice, saying stay out of the area. We're going to start bombing. They tell our emissary in Baghdad this information without consultation. And now we find out, Donald Trump, they're not even bombing ISIS. They're bombing enemies of Assad. Does that change your stance of letting Russia handle it?
Well, you know, the biggest problem I have is that you look at what's gone on with Libya, with Gaddafi, and Iraq with Saddam Hussein, and with all of these people that we've been fighting against, and the problem is far greater. I mean, Iraq is a total disaster, but Iraq led to the Middle East. Then you look at Libya, total disaster. We don't know who these rebels are. You know, we're supposed to be fighting with rebels. We have no idea. Some of the people, I spoke to one of the generals, they didn't even know who they are we're fighting for. Is it worse than Assad? What's going on? And I do say this. Russia destroyed itself. You know, when it was the Soviet Union, they spent so much money in Afghanistan. They got bogged down. You watch. I bet they get bogged down again. They're going to go in here. They're going to get bogged down again. I really think, Brian, I understand your view, and I fully understand both sides of the picture. But I think we have to be very cool. Let's just see what happens. Don't move too fast. We're fighting for rebels that we have no idea who they are. They're probably going to be, if based on everything else we've seen with Iraq and with Libya, they're probably going to be worse than what you have in right now. And what you have in right now is very bad.
It is very bad, sir. Let me just ask you this. I don't believe you when you say sit back and let Russia take the lead. You're not a person who wants anyone to take the lead. You want to be number one. Why rest on their laurels when they are underhanded and undermining our methods right now? And we find out they're not even bombing who they said they would.
But you don't want to jump in for people that we don't even know who they are. We're fighting for people that we have no idea who these rebels are. I've heard the rebels are worse than anybody else. I mean, if they could be ISIS.
Do we agree that ISIS
no
is our
idea
enemy?
who they are.
Donald Trump, do we agree that ISIS is our enemy?
ISIS is absolutely the enemy.
So that's where our intention was.
ISIS is absolutely the enemy, and we have to do something very strong against ISIS, and frankly, we should be bombing the hell out of them. And frankly, go beyond the lines. You have to go beyond the lines of Syria. You know, we're talking about Syria, but ISIS is in Iraq, very big league. ISIS is all over the place. We have to be bombing ISIS. But I don't think we should act so fast. We can just slow it down a little bit. Let's see what happens. Remember this. We're fighting for people that we have no idea who they were. Some of them we didn't even know until recently. And by the way, they could be ISIS. We could be fighting for ISIS. So I think we have to be very cool. I'll be honest. We have to be, and that's not usually the way I am. I want to be, I want to be very proactive. But I think we have to watch it, see. I believe Russia has a big stake in getting rid of ISIS also because they don't want them going into Russia.
Right.
I've heard that for a long time. If I knew who these people were, if we thought they were George Washington, if we thought they were great, I'm all for you. But we have to find out. We have no idea who we're fighting for.
All right.
And it could be worse than Assad. As bad as he is, he's bad. But it could be worse than Assad.
Yeah, I mean, look at Gaddafi and Mubarak and Hussein. We had regime change in all those places. And
look what happened.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We took the lid off the garbage can. Should have left the lid on it. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the brand new USA Today Suffolk University poll. And congratulations, you are, once again, leading the pack at 23%. You're 10 above Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina. Marco Rubio has 9%, and it looks like you're about 3 times what Jeb Bush has right now.
Well, I'm honored. I mean, I just see these polls coming out. We've had polls where I'm at 36 and 37. I guess they're online, so people don't like to report them, but I think they're really accurate polls. Right. And last night in New Hampshire, we had 3,556 people. It was unbelievable, and the enthusiasm and everything else. So there's something happening out there that's really beautiful to watch.
And we got a glimpse of Melania in her first interview. Will we be seeing more of Mrs. Trump?
At People magazine, right?
Well, you will, and I'm sure she'll be on your show at the right time. She's going to be there. She would love to be.
Well, I'll save her spot. Melania and I have talked before. We cannot.
Absolutely.
She's got a great perspective on being an immigrant to this country.
Right. Yeah.
All right.